Hey guys, welcome back to Untier Talk. Today, it's me and Ajad hitting the snake draft and the other stuff. I will briefly note that I'm back at college, which is a terrible decision, but I'm doing it anyway. And there's this loud thing in the corner of my room that I can't turn off. It's something to do with the air, but it's not heat and it's not air conditioning. I don't really know what it's doing, but I'm not allowed. I cannot turn it off. So hopefully, it's not going to make this too shit of sound. Uh, but you know what? We'll get through it as a society and come together to talk about the greatest metagame in all of history, current SSPU.
We love SSP. We
Ah,
love it a lot.
I do. I'm still having fun, just not when I build. Except for the team I made with Galarian Farfetch. That was pretty fun. So we've got Snake to hit. There's some other big PU things, more ADV PU Tour, Akir stepping down and Specs moving up. Uh, yeah, that's some big shit. I don't think there's more to say on that. That's like it's news, but it's not like discussion. Um, and we should probably hit a bit of what's being talked about, right? So we're gonna have another vote. It's gonna have the Kling Clang, the Boofer, the Throw, and the Lilligant. I still don't think we're gonna end up banning Kling Clang as much as I still want to. We've kind of hit that stuff. And then other people started posting like, actually, Lipart and Laurent is pretty crazy, especially tracked Lipart, and that's kind of crazy because this only came up literally today as a big discussion topic, and I can definitely see where Attract is kind of stupid because you have very limited defensive Lipard counterplay and just completely fucks with those fighting types. So like Ajad and I were just talking in council, I'm kind of down to remove something that has no defensive utility and sort of breaks the tier like Lipard because we need to remove something. But as far as do I think Lipard and Laurent is really broken yet? No, definitely not. So it's some fun topics. I don't know if there's anything you want to say
So yeah, I just wanted to just add a little bit onto what you were saying about Lipard and Laurentis. The idea that something that doesn't really contribute to the tier in a defensive aspect is basically a free ban at this point. I just wanted to add on to that quickly that there might be a permutation or combination of the banned Pokemon in the future, which we can reintroduce to the tier.
almost certainly.
If
With the tier shifts and that.
Exactly, right? So for me right now, I just want to get rid so that we can at least progress the tier in a place where at least Snake isn't a complete drag to build for, which it currently is. It's basically pick your poison and 50-50s and where you want to lose and where you don't want to lose, and if you can cheese, you might want to cheese. Like, there's loads of just manic stuff going on. And yeah, I think that's where we are currently in the meta. Just get rid of something. And there's loads of borderline broken things, but not really much that's purely broken. We need to get rid of some of those borderline broken stuff, like Clinker, like Lipard. I think.
Yeah, it's like I
Sure,
wouldn't
will be good.
I wouldn't consider banning Lipard if the tier wasn't in this state. And even I think most Snake people are definitely having fun, but most Snake people are also like, yeah, this is clearly not good for building in a tour setting and needs to change, with the exception of Tlenit. Like even Gatot was like, I'm really loving this PU meta and all that, but I would still probably ban Laurentis and maybe Lipard. Like, everyone sort of wants some kind of action to free stuff up, which I think is pretty noteworthy. And we'll see what we can get off. I might toss Lipard and Laurentis onto the slate for the heck of it, but I current council opinions, especially like the initial thoughts, I don't really see it.
I think the thing with Lipard is that on top of the 50-50s that you already have in the builder, there's a 50-50 within that 50-50, which is what's Lipard set are you actually playing? Are you playing like Nasty Plot or a physical set? And if it's either, like there's a thing where, okay, if I don't have a fighting type, I need to get the right physical switch in it, or is it going to be special? And if I switch the special thing in, or the special
Yeah,
Pokemon
I
thingy, and
don't think
it's
that applies
physically.
as much to Liepard. It's not as crazy significantly different as other Pokemon that can go mixed have been in the past. I don't think you're
No,
like
I'll,
it's
I'll
not
straight
like
up
when
disagree.
Nasty Plot Gorgeist was real in its heyday, and it's like it totally beats the physical or special stuff. You still kind of have the same set. I don't know about Lipo. I really wouldn't be considering banning it if I wasn't like, fuck, we need something, and it might as
I
well
think honestly,
also nuke this. But it's also kind of been a big glue for team. Like, it provides the priority and the outspeeding Galar Dash. You know.
I actually think here that Galadash is or Goni is probably the closer comparison to Lipod, just because the ability to go physical and the ability to go special. But the difference with Lipod is having stab knock means that nothing that of like mixed defensive tankiness wants to switch into it.
Mm.
Like you're not going to switch in your type null. You're
Exactly,
not
yeah.
going to switch in. You're not going to switch in stuff like Appleton. It's an extremely difficult one to switch into. Basically forces in the fighting type, and then as Senate was mentioning, like the attract stuff is just, oh man, if you get the wrong type and as attract works out for you, like it's chalked as fuck.
Yeah, that stuff's kind of nutty. I should throw too. We also did a VR update, which I think is worth briefly talking about. Um, the big S rank change is less so. I don't think anyone's super surprised that we like put Clink Clang and Throw back into S and drop Mr. Rhyme and that kind of stuff. The VR is pretty weird for me because like this meta is so fucking stuck around what you can really use and prep for and all that that all the lower rank changes were I felt especially awkward in this one. We did things like, oh, we should probably drop Vibrava and Crocorock and Dugtrio and that kind of stuff. No one's using any of that. How can you? So it was pretty weird. I still would have done more shuffling. Ludco is like not a B rank mon anymore. I don't think it's kind of good. That kind of stuff. Um, yeah, that's really all I had to say on it. That if you feel like the VR is kind of whack, a lot of this stuff will probably get unranked when we get 20 new mons in the shift or whatever. And yeah,
Jeez.
I agree. It is well. It won't be 20 until you add in unbans. I don't think any of the major shifts have been like 20, but maybe.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all I had. We can move on to the big topic du jour, which is Snake Week 2. Last week we did chronological. This week I'm just gonna use the replays thread because that's way easier. So I don't remember when exactly these games happened. But the top one here is Telenet versus Rosie Bear, which I honestly think was the least interesting game. I don't know. I don't know how much you remember about it. Um,
Um, yeah, I to be honest, if I remember this game correctly, I thought Rosie's team just looked a bit, I don't know, looks not standard. It didn't look like it had any like cohesion. Like it felt like Crustal plus, five offensive threats, basically like straight up hyper offense,
yeah, it's
and
just hyper
pray that it
offense.
works.
It's got lead sash Doug. It's got some healing wish. It's just hyper offense, and I like it relatively more than Rosie's other teams, but I still don't think they've nailed down PU building at all. And this happened to run right into Telenet's Cotton Guard Bouffalon, which is unfortunate because every member of Rosie's team was a physical attacker except for the Lilligant. So that, which also healing wish before Boof came out, but that's not the point. The point is 5 physical attackers and the Lilligant versus the Cotton Guard Amnesia Boof. No ghost types, no encore, no like for offense. The anti-cheese was just what I presumed to be sturdy boots Crustal. It wasn't weak armor, so I'm gonna assume sturdy boots Smash Crustal, which for offense is not a good anti-cheese mon. It's a good anti-cheese mon for balance that has a bit more defensive backbone. Um, but that is not the anti-cheese mon when you run into like rain or most like Trick Room, certain like really random speed boosting things, um, or defensive sweepers. It doesn't do that. And pretty much all of Rosie's team was just setup stuff with no encore, no utility. That's not going to out set up just Cotton Guard Bouffalon. You could have seen the same thing with Double, with, I don't know, Duosion. I don't know, Duosion? No, it still gets acid armor. You know, that kind of stuff. Like, there wasn't really going to be any chance, which is rare in this meta, and definitely not the kind of stuff like most people are prepping for, but I don't know. Even with the difficult prepping for this meta, I always try to fit that kind of anti-cheese stuff somewhere, and it just wasn't here.
Right, yeah, I thought, to be honest, Rose's team, it looked, from my perspective, too much in terms of the setup sweepers, especially in a meta where loads of boots, loads of hazard control, you're not going to be getting hazard damage off consistently, I think, for it to be, for you to be that reliant on hazards, to be, like, getting your mods in, to be honest. He really needed a lot more of that, initial immediate power type Pokemon, like a Choice Banded Breaker or a Choice Specs thing that he can double into a booth and then be like, okay, well, what's your answer for this? But yeah, it's just, I'm so glad Slenet didn't lead off with booth and just win instantly, because that would have been really bad.
Like the false Teddy game from last Snake, where he just led with the
no. Yeah, no, but False didn't lead with it as well. Like he took like 5-10 turns.
He took he took like 3 turns. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but yeah, same thing. Like, if Slayer literally led with booth and click Gone Guard, he won the game instantly, which is incredibly sad.
Yeah, pretty much. Rosie might have been able to like. So Rosie led with the Doug. Rosie probably would have been able to Rocks, Memento, and then set up with something alongside the booth, and then once you're also at plus. And then, like, the Life Orb Galardash doing, neutral, like, +6 hits to +6 defense Buffon might have won with the Memento reducing the Body Slam. That might have been a path. Or if it was, like, sub on the Cling Clang and you get all the way up. That's possible. Because Gear Grind is better crit chances because it's the 2-hit. So I don't think leading actually would have won. But it would have taken almost no time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let me just adjust something. Okay, that's better. Sorry. So that's pretty much that. It was just the booth doing the thing that like matchup. Yeah, like we said, Rosie Bear's team was kind of weird. We didn't talk much about Tlenet's team. It mostly fits together. It looks pretty generic for this meta. I think it's pretty good. Obviously, there are some things that like, oh no, you just kind of get fucked by that. But this is pretty reasonable. I don't have any issues with it.
Yeah, I think the key thing to point out is that I think I told Tlenet this midweek when we were not necessarily arguing, but we were discussing the meta.
Yeah.
I think Tlenet's team is probably one of the better teams that I've ever seen in this meta, but there's still 3-4 things that straight up he doesn't have a shot burst, which is kind of scary.
Yeah, because we're talking about like Tlenet is sort of on the side of we don't need to ban anything. If your team is really weak to something, get better, just build better. And we're like, well, no, like even your teams just kind of auto lose to some things. It's how this meta works. We should try to remove some pressure. Because we can do that. We can just make the meta better if we want. That's our like pro band take. So we were like picking through that team and going, hey, this team's pretty good, but still, like, this is the stuff that's just gonna bop you. Anyway, next game is Soulgazer versus TJ. This one, this is a whack game. God, yeah, this was just such a weird game. I think it's the second week in a row that Soulgazer has just not played as well as he should be for his pedigree or whatever. But I had a hand in helping with this team. I do quite like his team. TJ on the other side was, I think, mostly fine except for this one major point that we'll get to later. and his team's pretty weird. It looks very close to standard, but TJ's team is different enough that I'm like, that's kind of weird. Maybe it's just me, but like the way these things fit together is.
I like TJ's team. I think TJ's team is actually quite good for the meta, to be honest.
I don't think it's bad. I'm not saying, but it's weird. This is not like the Fisk Lurantis rhyme is an odd choice for a defensive core. It's like the team is very pressured by status to an extent. Even with Lurantis, you just kind of get overwhelmed. It's weird versus hazards, that kind of stuff. It's so close to standard, and then for whatever reason, my brain's like, that's different. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the lack of fighting type, to be honest, which is why I'm still stunned by we saw no fighting resistance, but hey ho.
Yeah, wait, what do you mean no fighting resist? They both have fighting resist. I mean, TJ's fighting resist.
Team from last week.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's different. This is also the 3 out of 4 teams that we've seen so far have had Dreadnought. You'll see Dreadnought with huge usage because teams are so pressed, you have to roll compress like that, and Dreadnought being like the Scarfer with some bulk to check on Pheasant and set rocks is like, all that together is pretty nice. It's pretty, like, there's a real reason it's shooting up, and that's because it's just hard to not roll compress like that. Oh god, I swear I turned the sound off on this replay. That's probably going to sound real bad. Okay. So the thing about this game is that, I don't know, I like Soulgazer's matchup, and I think overall this game should have gone much better for him than it did. But like I said, this game was just played very odd in many ways. Very early on, though, I like turn 4, one of the techs we had is Stun Spore Roselia, because you'll notice Soulgazer's team, it is mostly in that same realm of like, oh, this has the ice type problem, because Galar Mine will just +2 Focus Blast your Clink Clang, and the next time it comes in, it'll hit ice moves. That's not untrue. We were like, yeah, ices are annoying, but with Stun Spore Rose, there are no remotely free switches for Mime or Rhyme. Glaceon, which is pretty rare, can come in on Driftblim. Like, you get to paralyze things. There's pretty much no free kills these mons can get whatsoever. So that's kind of the idea behind Stun Spore Rose.
Right. I think it's a pretty cool take, to be honest, because at that point, you can't just nasty plot up for free and then click Focus Blast afterwards. Mm-hmm. You have to click Focus Blast initially, which is a much harder play. So I do like that.
Yeah, and if Rose stays in, it's just got 2 KO you like that. And then TJ, exactly. And then it was really funny because TJ goes right back with the T-Wave Mr. Rhyme, which is also fun on like your Spadef Mr. Rhymes. You don't want to be running Focus Blast. You'll just T-Wave the Clink Clang, which is yeah. I like
you'll take that.
I like the back and forth there. That was fun. And the Clink Clang here, I think, was just toxic stuff, not shift gear. If I don't actually remember from Soulgazer. So but I don't think it was a huge deal. The really big thing I think was very early on, Soulgazer stays kind of passive, and on turn 7, TJ gets his Lipard in on Soulgazer. And throw is at 76%. It's a Fizz-Def throw. We've already seen this. But we know TJ has a Choice Band Lipard, and Play Rough will just do a whole heckin' smoky bunch. Things like this are scary, and that's why, like, I don't think this is a meta thing with not being able to prep or stuff. I think this is purely, like, no matter what you're playing, unless it's full stall, you kind of need to stay a little bit more offensive and aggressive than like this hard switch back into Rose, caught by the Lipard in this position. Soulgazer makes the attempt to stay in for a play rough and just dies the knockoff, which is a really early problem because a lot of Soulgazer's momentum relies around having spikes, which is totally possible to do when the Rhyme is already paralyzed, and that just does not happen by turn 8. Rose is dead, and Lurantis, much bigger threat now. That's literally all you had? I was blowing my nose,
Right.
but all I heard was.
Right. Because here's how my take on this at least would be, um, because I think if you how I've seen SG play in the past, he's been like hyper focused on his win con, and knowing SG, he probably saw TJ's team and was like, yo, if I get a nasty block going, if I like chip the Stunfisk and chip the Life Pod a little bit, my own Life Pod is going to go ham. So he'll take the damage on Roselia and take the damage on later on we'll see the Drift Blim to weaken specifically the things that he wants. So when Life Pod gets into the late game,
but this didn't weaken anything. It was just like really passive early game switching, and I'm only talking about it a lot because it really defines how the late game goes. I will say though the mitigating factor is that SG's Roselia had a lot of Fizz Def. The knockoff roll was not even in TJ's favor, which is why he ended up staying in. It was actually kind of bad. This was like. Let me approximate the set. Lightbird Roselia. It wasn't full Fizz Def. But the knock roll was not fully in TJ's favor at all. I think it was over 50% for Soulgazer to live. I don't remember by how much, but if Soulgazer did like get off a sledge bomb, that would be huge for the rest of the game. Like Lightbird will die to Rocky Helmet after that. So I get it. But I think the early game passive play and losing Rose is pretty much like the defining thing early game that will decide the next 50 turns.
I don't know about that. I think the thing with the Rose play is, of course, TJ and SG both know that there's a Fizz Def throw on the other side of the field. So maybe I think what I'm seeing here is SG predict TJ to not want to get that damage on his Life Pod via the Rocky Helmet. And therefore predict TJ to either make a double or
I don't.
He doesn't make a double.
I just don't think that's the reasoning at all. That's just not it. There's no prediction of a double to avoid the helmet from throw. No, that's just not that's just not what happened. Like,
well, if you think about it, Life Pod is the one thing.
No, like I know it's not. I know it's not what happened. I talked with Soulgazer after the game. That's not a thing. That.
Okay.
No one was thinking.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it.
That's insane. Like you also would be fine with that helmet damage. That doesn't matter. Like, no, that's not what happened. But yeah, this Lurantis gonna start to be a little bit of a threat, and also gets the aromatherapy off, which makes Rhyme like not useless. And this is sort of where we start a very long period of Fat Throw doing fat things, particularly defined by TJ hard switches Galarian Rapidash into Throw as it manages to sleep talk a Guts knockoff, and then he play roughs directly into the Throw without like Morning Sunning or anything if it had that, and is left at like 17% and unable to do any kind of fighting resist thing. Even with that, again, like Lightbird gets back in, throws at 54%. Soulgazer has to sack the Drift Blim next. Lightbird just keeps kind of getting those kills because he keeps getting like the correct doubles on the sort of passive plays, and pretty much all Soulgazer's responding with is just more throw play against this Lurantis, especially turn 25. Turn 26. This is the turn where TJ has a +4 Lurantis, not +6, just +4, 2 Leaf Storm boosts versus Soulgazer's Throw that has to go for rest here. You can just Leaf Storm again and make this Throw dead, or kill something else and pretty much have the game. And I know TJ talked about this, but I don't really remember why he chose to not Leaf Storm and just win. Instead, he superpowers, and then Soulgazer managed to sleep talk a Circle Throw the first time the next turn. Leaf Storm would have straight up won the game. Do you have any recollection or insight onto this moment?
No. I think maybe he thought that he was going to get revenge killed by the Dreadnought and then potentially lose to that, but that's the only thing that I
Yeah,
heard
no,
of.
I'm pretty sure that's what he did say, that he was going to get revenge killed by Dreadnought if he didn't have a superpower off. Which I guess my response is, so you're going to win the game. You're going to win the game after that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, my only minor rebuttal would be like maybe he didn't think he won the game at that point.
I
That's
guess.
the only thing I'd say.
Yeah, that's like a
Because
huge. That's the other like really defining thing. And then he brings in Gallardash again, and I guess yeah, it must not have been Morning Sun because he just never gets to recover with it at all, and it dies to throw and does nothing, and
yeah,
that's
that
not
was
the
one thing
fighting
I
resist.
was extremely surprised by because you would think a Galadash in this team, with it being your main fighting resist, you'd want Morning Sun on it at the minimum to keep pressure on the fighting types long term.
I'd be running like some bulk on this shit too, like some fat on your SD. Just pads
honestly,
pads no Morning Sun was really weird, and I think accentuated how bad throw was to like beat up TJ's team more than it should have been. I think people were poking fun at this a little bit too hard. Of like, holy shit, throw is crazy, because that was just so bizarre. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it was just a team building error because honestly, it needed to be Morning Sun on this type of team where you have Stunfisk, Dreadnought, Lipard. That's all bait for throw. To be honest, even the now that you know the set, like Mr. Ryan, that's also bait for throw. That's not killing it. So you need to. You really need
not a Spidefra.
On that, you misplayed.
Yeah, not a Spidefra. So that's crazy. But then we finally get to the point where TJ loses his Lurantis because he lets it get gear grinded to death by Soulgacer's paralyzed Clink Clang. Which, to be fair, hitting a paralyzed gear grind and either getting the roll or just getting the gear grind crit, not crazy odds for TJ, but again, like, this Lurantis should not have really been in this position. There was no need for this to happen. I think he just got kind of impatient and went, I want to try to kill the Clink Clang now. Maybe he was afraid he was going to run out of PP if he didn't do the damage, because he was down to just 2 Leaf Storms, which, like, again, should not happen. That's why you can't waste that Leaf Storm on the throw there, because your PP, like, you only have 8 PP for both those attacks. So maybe that was it. But losing the Rantis without, like, its remaining 4 attacks definitely really hurt. And from there, it pretty much just ended up being throw just cleaning up. Although we did see a fun cameo from the Raiden Dance Dreadnought, managing to kill the throw. It wasn't enough to win the game. That was pretty fun. And then Soulgazer won with Nasty Plot Lipard, which was the win con. TJ's team also has some problems with that Lipard. Because the Dreadnought wasn't Scarf, which only kind of gets revealed at the end. Like, TJ's team is also weird in that the speed control is just the Lipard and the Rapidash with no Scarf or anything. So that made Lipard fucking huge, but you didn't know that until the very end of the game, where it turned out to be Raindance Dreadnought. Okay, so I think I talked like way too much about that game, and we can just move on.
Yeah, we can. I think that game was.
Yeah,
that game was. I don't know. It was just super interesting. That's probably one of the better games this week, honestly.
It was fun. Kepi versus Siri. I generally enjoyed this game. It was just a showcase of a bit of like techs that have general applicability, but we're also really good at specifically just like, haha, get matchup, kid. Ziri had Itemless Thief Polytoad, which turn 1 takes away Kepi's Type Null's Eviolite. And he gets to do a lot of chip to that Type Null very early, like by turn 5, it's at 70% and has rested. And pretty soon, Ziri is going to get in his sub Heatmore and he's going to double into it on Kepi's Lorenta switch, get a sub up, kill the Type Null without losing the sub, and that's just like, well, fuck me, dude. It would have been immediately over had Kepi not dodged a fire blast, and even with that, it was just like, no, this game was very quickly, you're done, kid. Which was funny because like it wasn't even the heat more a ton. The next time it came in, the sub just got rock blasted and it died to the dreadnought. But Kepi kind of lost full on the defensive core. The Type Null's dead. The Lurantis is half dead. The Dreadnought's pretty chipped. The Rapidash is pretty chipped. And at that point, I think it was pretty trivial for Zeri to just clean up this game. Like, things happened, but not much.
Yeah, I think this was honestly one of the more interesting games because Kepi still found a way to be in with a shot, even though he had technically no right to be at a certain point. Like, there was that Heatmore interaction which we were talking about. Not much. Heatmore actually, it looked like it did a shit ton, but it didn't really. Like, if we're being completely honest, like, if that Sylvani gets a sword stance off, we're still asking questions and saying, well, does Throw have enough defense to live that?
Mm-hmm.
Or did Kepi get enough chip in the early game to be able to deal with that? Like, there's still questions that Zeri needs to answer post Heatmore. And I'm happy that Kepi managed to like maneuver around that, because that's a lot of pressure to throw on a backbone, right? Like, that early game was brutal. But,
yeah, and especially you're trying to prep with all that, trying to not lose to the Lipard, when you have no dark resists late game. That's a big challenge.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Kepi did super well to keep themselves in with a shot, even though, like, yeah, as we said, that was disastrous. But yeah, as it ended up being, like, Zeri is not a stranger to these types of situations. They just played it pretty much like super safe towards the end and won out.
Yeah, I think this went extremely well for Zeri. Like, the whole Heatmore Polytoad thing really worked out. The fat stuff held up. The Lipard cleaned up nicely. This was just pretty much exactly what the team was meant to do. So good stuff to Zeri and Specs for cooking that up.
Yeah, that was a really good team. As I told Specs as well, Specs is a go.
Yeah, as much as team building's fucking hard, I liked most of the teams this week. We still had the Rosie thing, and then we're gonna get to Kink versus Obi.
Oh, this is the rain game. Oh,
yeah, this is the rain game. So Kink has a rain. For rain, I like it. Hatrim Bouffalant rain, yeah, I like that. I just don't think it works. I don't think rain works. It's just the full-on matchup, and like, Obi did not even have a crazy good matchup, and it still did not go Kink's way at all. Like, I don't really have faith in full rain whatsoever after this one.
Right. Honestly, I think there is a spot for rain. I think this game highlighted some of its potential, but I feel like the execution was just a bit off the mark. You probably needed an extra Swift Swimmer versus what Obi brought. Like, if you had a Golduck instead of Raichu, I think you're looking at this game completely different. You could potentially be like, yo, Golduck is super scary, and especially if you manage to get a lot of damage on that type null, you're looking at a decent game. But,
maybe, but I like the concept of just like having less Swift Swimmers and doing more like the Boof and the Hat, and just having, I don't know, I like it.
I think it's Raichu. The Raichu is just...
The Raichu is definitely the weak link. It's absolutely the weak link and the problem, and I don't know why. Like, you do not need Thunder users. All the time people like, fucking, yeah, Thunder users, man, you gotta have them on right now. Don't bother. You don't need them. Yeah, people always try to do it.
It's not worth it. I'm guessing they thought, oh, the Thunder plus, Surf in the rain is a scary combination. Honestly, the power difference you get is +1. If you think about it, just like a +1 Thunder plus a +1, but not even +1 Thunder. It'd be literally like +1 Thunderbolt and a +1 Surf doing damage.
Yeah.
And to me, at least, that's not something that I'm particularly scared by,
No,
considering you've sacrificed so much to get Rain up.
no,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
+2 speed Golduck with stab coming out of like a shift geared Golduck with stab coming out of Rain. Like that's way scarier to think about. And I feel like it would fit his team much better than the Raichu did.
Yeah.
In the end.
The other thing with Raichu is just when it lost the speed tie to Obi's Lil Dugtrio. Kink might have won for all I'm like. I don't really believe in this team. You know, Obi still his water resists were like I guess null tech kind sort of, and then some kind of lefties Gorg small. It was weird. It was toxic power subtoxic power poltergeist. Like if Kink had won that speed tie, he might have won. And just started. It depends. I'm not sure if Weather Ball, Hydro, Giga, Ludicolo also fits Ice Beam. Did we see? Yeah, we saw. So it was Ice Beam. I don't know if the Gorg would have lived that. Let me run a quick.
I don't think it would.
Ludicolo.
It's pretty max HP if I had to guess, but even then, like even if it's max attack like this, it's very. I honestly don't think
so it actually kind of depends if it's modest or timid, how likely it is. But yeah, Kink absolutely had a chance to win this if he had won a speed tie with the Raichu, which just makes me even more think like, man, if anything else could have set Rain except for something that to speed tie Lil and Dugtrio, that would have been nice.
Yeah.
Obi's,
like I said, I
yeah,
feel like
that's all we can
game,
say on Rain.
Yeah, like the key thing that I took away from this game at least is that Rain it has potential. Like if somebody like a seasoned builder decided to take on the task of building Rain, I feel like it could do things. But yeah, in this particular game, I don't feel like it was like functioning at its absolute best for us to say, oh, Rain is just crap. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've hit pretty much all the thoughts on Rain. Obi's team's weird because it's very weak. It's Subtox, Alolan Dugtrio, and Subtox Gourgeist, and not doing very much damage. It's got like an eject pack Hitmonchan, but you're not pivoting into like a break or anything. You're just doing Subtox stuff. And it's slow. It's no Scarfer. It's relying on the defensive core of Null, BM, Sandslash.
Yeah, I feel like Obi would have struggled here in an actual matchup where he wasn't playing a team that essentially suicided. Like he didn't have to beat anything. He just had to not die in like 20 turns, and he won the game. And his team just didn't die. So yeah, I guess he won the game, but I don't feel like that's a solid team. To be honest, that's probably my least favorite team of the week. Behind maybe that and like Rosie Bear's team. But yeah, I feel like Obi got away with one. But as we've seen, they've made the plays to make up for the deficiency.
This is the second time where I feel like Obi got away with a team that I did not super rate, but totally worked out for this matchup. Even though, like I said, like the water resist not super there, but he was pretty much fine versus TJ and now Kink. And if he keeps getting away with it, then fuck, it doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
This was not the worst thing. If it was Future Sight with BEM setup, I do rate Future Sight plus Alolan Dugtrio. It's actually quite a nice abuser of that
shit. I
shit.
agree with that.
So there could definitely. It's still a little. I just don't really know what it's going for. Like you've got two pivots into just Subtox Mons. It's just a bit weird. Last game this week. Ham versus Ifo, who once again subs in for Katut XD. Ham's got some whack stuff, dude. He's got the dual regen core with a Life Orb Stealth Rock Stonejourner. Yeah,
fine one to be fair.
Yeah. Okay, so the thing I said about this in the game. Why are you not just Life Orb Stealth Rock Lycanroc? I know Stonejourner has Heat Crash, but Lycanroc gets play rough.
Yeah, FizzDef, bro. You can. I mean, you have the tangible
Like
right there.
it's
But I mean,
it's Stone for the FizzDef on a team with dual regen Tangela Marini. I don't really think I think the FizzDef is the only thing justifying Stone, and it just doesn't really make sense to me here. The other thing about this
maybe
team,
it's a weight cut. Is it? Are you sure it's not like a rock polish thing?
no, it was
Like
like it was
rock
Life
polish
Orbs. It
rocks.
was Life Orb Stealth Rock. There's no way it was also the Wind Con. And
It
even
might
then,
have had
like
rock polish as a filler.
Lycanroc gets agility. Point is, I found that bit very odd. Other than that, this team's got some throw problems. It doesn't lose to throw. Throw will not break the team, but you will also not break throw, which is one of those approaches where I'm like, if you're running like a Tangela Marini as a way to beat throw, you've got it walled, but your breakers shouldn't also lose to it because at that point it will just sit on your team and you won't get to do anything. And when you've also got Stonejourner, Klinklang, Scarf on Pheasant, and Hitmonchan, that's like, oh my god, throws just walled in this. The problem is we haven't even mentioned Ifo's team. Ifo didn't have a fighting resist, so he just got 6-0'd by the fighting type.
Deserved. This is punishment from God.
No, okay. Stonejourner was
People
Life
don't
Orb
fight
3.
resist.
It was 3 attacks rocks, by the way. Heat Crash, Earthquake,
Poor thing.
Rock Move. I don't actually think it ever hit. Yeah, it only revealed Heat Crash, Earthquake. I'm gonna assume it's Stone Edge or whatever. I guess technically it could be Agility and just no rocks, or Rock Polish and just no rocks. It doesn't matter. By turn 20, Hitmonchan is in and starts doing sub bulk up stuff, and it gets forced out, but then it gets back in later, and that is just the game. There's nothing Ifo can do. I think he just got past this team from Katut, and you're done. Like it doesn't matter. Like there were bits of Ham's team I found really weird. Your only removal on Tangela Marini is Scarf on Pheasant. You're begging to die to spikes. You're begging to just get spiked to shit on that. You know, that kind of stuff. Like this team was, I don't know. I don't rate it as highly as the other stuff, but it does not matter. There's no relevancy to that fact. You had a sub bulk of Hitmonchan versus a team like this. You're gonna win.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is God looking down upon me and saying, "This is why you are frustrated with teams with lack of fighting resist. I will give you this 6-0 as a way of appeasing you for what happened with Obi's game, right?" And I feel quite happy inside that the team who didn't have a fighting resist got 6-0'd by fighting type. That is karma at its finest.
Yep, pretty much.
Even though I feel bad that the meta has the amount of restrictions that it does, where it's like, okay, I can understand why somebody might just completely ignore the fighting type department, but I'm glad somebody got punished for it. You can't, like, lightning doesn't strike twice. I believe that's the saying anyway.
Mm-hmm, pretty much. So that's it for the snake. Week 3, we are going to have, we're gonna have Rosie Bear versus TJ. Rosie's what now? 1-1.
Yeah, 1-1.
And TJ's
hacking somebody first week, I think. It should be 0-2 technically.
I
don't know. I can't remember the
I don't think it was hacks. I really don't.
I can't remember the game even.
I genuinely can't remember what happened last week. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Rosie played. God, I'm going to find this. TJ's 0-2. He took the hard loss to Obi, and then he took that loss to Soulgazer with some wackiness.
I found the game. It's SG. It was the game versus SG that SG lost.
Oh, yeah, SG lost to Rosie Bear, because Rosie Bear, like, again, had a kind of fucking weird team, but the matchup, like, did not do Soulgazer any favors. And I don't think...
I'll give that. That's a valid win.
Yeah.
That's a valid win.
Yeah, that's a valid win. I don't think Soulgazer played as well as he could have, but he wasn't, like, throwing the shit out of that. Rosie, he was fine there. And TJ has been struggling. I kind of want to see... I don't think his teams have been bad. I think they've certainly been higher quality than other people where we're like, no, they got lucky, they didn't face stuff. But for TJ, I think getting more into this tier is supposed to be his forte. And we haven't quite seen that, like... The
Domino
same.
effect.
Yeah, I've been more impressed with the Spec Siri building core, which I predicted going in, but I don't think most people would have. I think if TJ just um, can solid it out, then he should be fine versus Rosie. But
Mm.
I think that'll be kind of defining here.
Yeah, if you'd asked me post PUPL, like the day of the Cladles winning, that TJ was playing Rosie Bear, I'd probably put him at 65 to Rosie Bear having like 35. But now I'm sort of leaning to like TJ 60 still the favorite, but Rosie Bear at 40.
Yeah,
I feel like
I
that's
would
the
have put
more
it
appropriate.
even like 55-45. This is what I said, where you don't have the same building support from PUPL. Maybe you're not popping off in the same way. Again, I don't think any of the teams have been like bad. You're lucky you didn't face this, whatever. But you know,
So far to
so
me, at
where we're
least
at.
TJ's building and playing has left to be desired.
Yeah,
I feel like he can improve on both, and I feel like
yeah. But you
this
know
is
what?
probably the
So
best
can
build.
Rosie. So, I mean,
Yeah,
so
okay.
can literally everybody. But yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
we've got the Tlenet Ziri. That's gonna be fun. Um,
Mm. Apprentice versus Master like dynamic here. This is quite fun.
yeah, pretty much. Tlenet should have had the week one win and has now come off a that nice week two win with the Buffalon. And Ziri's 2-0. So this is like two people who've kind of been doing pretty strong and killing it. And I don't know which way I'm gonna call it. They both had the most fun, the best teams. I think they both. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I'm gonna.
I like I'd pretty much just go 50-50 on this. Like they're looking like the strongest lads so far. Which is the
Yeah,
same for Tlenny
uh,
because his team is doing garbage. Everyone else on his team, they got 1-9 last week. He was the only win.
let's go.
Let's go
Um,
Tlenny. Hell yeah.
right. I think I'm gonna call this 53 and a half Ziri, 46 and a half to Lennon.
Mm, mm.
um,
I went to take a drink.
I
I was
think
not expecting that.
I think I just have more faith in Ziri as a player, to be honest. I feel like Tlenet is a brilliant builder in the meta, and honestly, this would be a complete 50-50 to me if Ziri did not have specs. But I've been just as impressed with specs builds than I have with Tlenet's build as well.
Yeah.
So I favor Ziri. I think everyone would favor Ziri just in a face-off, like player-wise. Um, but yeah,
I still
I feel
think
like
Tlenet's builds
that.
have a bit more of the X factor. So
You think? I think, to be honest, I feel like it's going to be interesting because
yeah,
Spencer's.
I don't know that the Thief Polytoad Heatmore stuff hit quite as hard as the just Cotton Amnesia boof.
The instant
I
win.
mean,
Okay,
part
I
of that's
think
matchup.
you
Don't
just
get me
like the
wrong, but
instant win.
even with that, like it's not just
Yeah,
matchup. It's like how wacky is this? I don't know.
yeah.
Soulgazer
Either way,
false.
this should be a great game. Soulgazer
Yeah,
false. That's
Soulgazer
interesting.
false. False is in. Kink is out because Kink was being Kink. Uh, I mean, I definitely favor Soulgazer because he's the one I'm helping.
Hmm.
Like if False had been in at the start of the tour, I'd probably be helping False, but he wasn't, so I've been helping Soulgazer. Um, this is gonna be fun. There's like no replays of False in current Gen P whatsoever, but he shared with me his open replays before they're mandatory and they're all hidden. I think False can do some shit. He's been pretty confident in my PMs. I'm looking forward to this debut. Um, but I think Soulgazer is going to step it up, so we'll see.
Yeah, I put this one at precisely 57 Soulgazer, 43 false.
Precisely, on the dot.
Precisely
Yeah.
on the dot because it's not a 60-40 and it's not a 55-45. I feel like it's 57.
Sure, okay, why not? Kepi Katut. This is fun if Katut plays. Kepi's definitely been struggling. Should be 0-2 right now. Still, I think needs to find his footing. It's not like the builds. I think have been fine. They're not the craziest. They're not the worst. I think they've been pretty fine. Um, but I think Kepi just could have been playing a bit stronger. If Katut runs in and doesn't get 6-0'd because he doesn't have a fighting resist, I have to give Katut the edge. Obviously, with Cappy, we can do that whole bit, but I think we can just go to Obi versus Ham.
Yeah, because we all know it's 100 Kepi, 0 Kata.
Exactly.
Okay, let's go Obiham.
Yeah. Obi's 2-0. Ham got. Uh, is Ham 2-0 now? No, right? He lost
I
first.
think I think he lost the first week. Let me check.
I'm pretty sure he lost first week.
Yeah, he lost versus Zeri.
Yeah, he lost to Zeri week 1. Um, that was not like I don't think he's been playing bad. His teams have still been on the whacker side because I think that's just kind of how ZS builds. With like I'm like, oh, the Stone Journer dual regen, that's weird. I do, but I don't know who to favor here. I think Ham's probably gonna roll up with the better team, but Obi's still kind of been running into the stuff he wants to run into. I don't know.
Um, okay, so
Two Obi should not fucking happen on this jerk team. The real big thing for him is just managing to like IFO. Obi can definitely beat, especially with a matchup like that. But the real big thing was like now he picked up an early win on TJ that puts him like in a much stronger momentum position. So I don't know how much I'm overrating him from that. But yeah, that's
I don't know. I feel like Obi's team or Obi's team's been a bit more on the weaker side compared to Ham's team. But I think after the first 2 weeks, I rate Obi slightly higher as a player.
mm.
So it's like slightly more solid builds with a slightly higher player. I think I'll give the edge to Ham like 52-48 because there's very little for us to go off of here. Like very little data in general and very little like predictability in builds. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's fair. So this has already been a pretty long cast, which is why I'm going to do a special segment I've planned called MZ Recaps Grand Slam PU really, really quickly, because we're not going to spend too much time on that. No one in Slam playoffs is a PU main. Most people didn't really prep for it on their own, I imagine. A couple people did build, or got help from mains to build. I know some people specifically, but for the most part, this is not the main focus. This is also in the Silvally water meta, but no one opted to bring it. I assume they either gentlemen or like the people building for them weren't building water volley meta. That's not super surprising. So you can just consider it current meta. High impulse dominatio. This was funny because they actually went to game 5 PU. No, that actually happens quite a bit. PU ended up in every single series, which I was surprised by. Most series left PU till game 4 or game 5. But every series went to game 4 or game 5, and PU always ended up in. So, haha, get wrecked, people trying to dodge PU. This game was kind of interesting. High Impulse has a team he made with, I think, Tlenet, which is like this wacky hyper offense crust lead type thing with a jetpack Leaf Storm Trevenant is the real highlight. I don't really know that it works. It's weird. I don't think it's totally functional for hyper offense. I could go into more detail, but this is supposed to be the fast recaps. Has 2 spikes and rocks up for literally the entire game, but it's just not quite enough to make the difference for him. Dominatio just kind of sat on him with fat stuff and was barely okay, especially winning an important sucker versus Ironhead 50-50 versus High Impulse's Poniard with his Galarian Rapidash to clutch this one out. That was way too long. Okay, Ultra Balls versus Watashi. Again, game 5 PU, haha. Watashi's team is fucking awful. I'm pretty sure he built it himself. It's just terrible. Ultra Balls has something that looks pretty standard, but maybe for like a meta ago, even then, overall pretty standard. Watashi's team is just awful. It does not work. Should have been 6-0'd by Klinklang, but Ultra Ball's Klinklang actually gets destroyed by Watashi's Specs Kadabra because he switches hard into it multiple times on that Kadabra when any single instance of shift gearing like immediately won in the game. He could have shift geared for free and won. I asked him why he didn't after, and he was like, "Oh, this thing could kill me." I'm like, "No, that does under half. That does nothing. You were fine." And he was like, "Oh, whatever." It did not really matter. Watashi's team just did not work in any way, shape, or form. Ultra Balls does dodge a late game power whip. I'm pretty sure he won anyway in the end. This Watashi just I don't know why he brought this. He tried to build PU. I respect that, but no. Moot versus Snaga. This was also game 5 PU. Hell yeah. Snaga brought the same team Jiri brought with the Thief Polytoad sub Heatmore stuff. Moot has a fun little balance that's got like Marini is the only Fatmon, which is really weird, not something you tend to see, and it's also got Reboot Lipard stuff. I like Reboot Lipard. That's a pretty fucking fun core. I haven't used it myself, but like all the teams I've seen with it, pretty impressed by its offensive stuff. Moot gets like a turn 3 freeze to just destroy Snaga's Polytoad and make sure it can't do anything. That blew. That just sucked. On the other hand, Snaga has a Choice Band Lipard, and Moot, he has no Dark Resist. His only Dark Resist is his own Lipard. That's just not a resist. He also had a Sub Salic Bulk Up Reversal Sucker Punch Reboot.
Good. Oh, that thing sounds scary.
That's fucking whack. I don't know about Salic. It beats a few things, but I don't think it beats as many things as just like having Leichy might do or something. Like there's a couple things you want to sucker. You know, you got to beat like the Prankster Lipards or Sucker Lipards or whatever, things like that. But overall, I don't know about that one. That seems a little bit too far for me. Moot still ends up clutching it out with a late game Kling Klang because, yeah, Kling Klang can easily break through throw whenever it wants to. That's just how it be. Snaga did come pretty close, but no cigar.
It do be like that sometimes.
Kinkler Confide, I think, was game 3 out of 5 PU. Kingler has the team Tlenit brought with the Cotton Guard Amnesia Bouffalant. Confide has his own team that he either made or got from someone on his PPL team. I don't know anything about this one really. I think it's pretty much fine. I have no real major gripes with Confide's team. It seems very familiar, but I couldn't say. The problem is that very early on, he lets his throw take a psychic from Mr. Rhyme. And throw is like literally his only thing that beats Kling Klang. The entire rest of his team just dies to Kling Klang. And Kingler just Kling Klangs all over Confide. It doesn't sweep because Confide dodges a gear grind to end up cotton guarding up with Bouffant, but like still cannot win in the end with just that. And Kingler ends up getting a 6-0, although he does go on to lose the set in game 5. Feels bad, man.
Sad times.
Osh versus Santu. I'm pretty sure this was also game 5 PU. I don't quite remember. I know we have still one more game 5 PU later. Santu has the team TJ brought this week down to all the specific text that TJ didn't reveal. So someone passed it to Santu, but it wasn't TJ and he doesn't know who. I thought that story was fucking hilarious. Osh has a pretty fine looking balance from like 2 metas ago, or like offense, sorry. Like it's a little old. Otherwise, I don't have major gripes with it. Just Bouffant and Lipard, not really things this team wants to face. The Manectric feels very outdated. I don't know. But unfortunately, Santu tries to knock off Osh's Driftblim, which is an itemless Driftblim, and the Driftblim gets to live and wisp the Lipard, and at that point, like the not having a great matchup for his new things does not really matter. Yeah, Osh's team just feels old. It's got a Shuka Rocks Dreadnought. That's an old feeling. Osh makes some pretty good early game plays, but then runs into Santu's or TJ's Santu's Rain Dance Life Orb Dreadnought. Because Osh's Dreadnought is not Scarf, he's no Revenge Killer to it, and he would have lost this game had he not dodged a Mega Horn with his Appleton, and like that was what he needed. Santu's Dreadnought would have done too much work for Osh to have a chance. But then Santu gets some revenge. Osh's paralyzed Kling Klang gets fully paralyzed as Santu's Galarian Rapidash, which was Quick Attack, by the way. Sword Stance Quick Attack Galarian Rapidash. Had to throw that out there. Gets to just set up a Sword Stance on the Kling Klang getting fully paralyzed, and then Santu wins. So there's some justice for Santu.
Justice for Santu.
3 more fucking games. Solwyn Yeah, 3 more games.
Jesus.
Solwyn, it's 8 games in total. Every series had PU. Solwyn, CBU. CBU continues to have teams that are like just barely. I kind of just don't like this. Pretty much the same with this open run. Same with Solwyn's open run, really. Solwind has a team that Soulgazer did not use. He built it and then was like, I don't like this. It's not good enough to use in an actual game. And apparently that ended up with Solwind. I don't remember how. I don't know how or why. The team has some structural flaws. CBU's team has also some pretty big structural flaws. This is actually kind of funny. One of the things I pointed out to Soulgazer as a major threat to his team was subtoxic Alolan Dugtrio, but CBU opts to pretty much just like make it almost dead extremely early, subbing all the way down on Solwyn's toxic Drifblim to get that killed, which made that just not as big of a deal. But ultimately, Solwind was just too weak to CBU's Pinsir plus Alolan Dugtrio doing a lot of breaking work and then just cleaning up with a Hitmonchan. Which Life Orb Hitmonchan, another thing that was just going to be a massive threat to Solwind's team when both your fighting resists are a Fat Rose and a Drifblim, and Hitmonchan gets to Ice Punch that, and your entire fast core is weak to Mach Punch. It's a problem. Okay, Rosie Bear versus the Franklin. This was another instance of Game 5 PU. Rosie Bear brings a team I haven't seen from them. I'm going to assume they built it because they've been building, and I have no idea where the Franklin's team comes from. It also seems like not the greatest team I've seen, but relatively fine, and building's hard. I'm not like, oh, these weaknesses are too stupid. Rosie Bear gets a very early and very annoying Spadef drop on the Franklin, but even then, I feel like Rosie Bear was pretty much in control for most of this. The Franklin had a pretty annoying Bouffalante and sort of gets some early kills, but unfortunately really messes up by mystical firing directly into Rosie Bear's Heatmore switch. He honestly might have been able to win if he'd made a really hard call out on Heatmore coming in. But without that, Rosie Bear just pretty much stays one step ahead for the entirety of the game in terms of breaking and like trading and stuff. And the Franklin tries to. He also has Cotton Guard Amnesia Booth, but it's kind of too little too late. Final game, Lopunny Kix versus Pink Dragon Tamer. This is game like 3 or 4 or something. Kix has an interesting little offense team. I have no idea where it came from. Pink Dragon Tamer has a team that looks very familiar, but I could not place it, and I still haven't been able to. I don't know. Pink Dragon Tamer is a UU main, and Lopunny Kix knows a lot of people. Like, I have no trouble believing that some PU main built this. That just, like, I don't know who. Okay. This was a game where Kix tried to do a lot of offensive things, and it very nearly worked out. This was a very fun game. I like Kix's offense. It was pretty gosh darn interesting. Unfortunately, at the very end of the game, Pink Dragon Tamer's Stealth Rock Alolan Dugtrio, it had only revealed, it had gone for Rocks and Earthquake earlier, but at the very end of the game, when pretty much everything's done, it shows that it's also Choice Scarf Rocks Alolan Dugtrio. Not really a thing. I don't think Kix expected that at all, and that ends up cleaning where he thought his Scarf Golduck was going to win the game for him. Damn, that's just unfortunate. Scarfalo and Dugtrio was just going to be a huge weakness for this team because that's like, what are you going to do? So Pink Dragon Tamer narrowly clutches that out. By far my favorite game of Slam, and the only one I'm definitely like, yeah, check this out. I think it's pretty cool. That was about 10 minutes of Slam wrap up. Holy shit.
Good job, bro. Good job.
Okay, I do feel like it's important to watch Slam and see what people are doing, see what people are getting past. It's more meta stuff. I really do like Kix's team. I have no idea who made it. Comment if you made Kix's team. It's not like it doesn't have some problems, but I mean, fuck, it tried. And it's got more Reboot Lipard. Hell yeah, Reboot Lipard. I think we can just end this off with Gimmick Corner now. At over an hour. Of course it is. I want to give a shout out to CB Morpeko. I still think this mon's pretty good, and everyone's just using Lipard. So, Morpeko's fun. But the main thing I want to say is Choice Scarf Cling Clang. You know how I
Of
was saying
course,
people need to roll compress because this meta is stupid? Um, that roll compresses. It's
it does.
it's got 90 base attack and a fairly spammable stab. Try to get rid of helmets beforehand. But yeah, like Gear Grind, Volt Switch, Wild Charge, Toxic, not a terrible lineup. There's worse things that you could do. I don't think this is crazy or meta revolutionizing, but it might just be the compression you need. Did you add?
Yeah, I hate that set.
I don't like needing to use it, but whatever.
Yeah, it's true. Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Right. Couple things. Choice Band Adamant Dreadnought is an underrated set. I don't think it's a meme or anything. It's
Yeah.
a gimmick. I think
No,
it's just
it's strong as shit. I think Head Smash 2 KOs Tangler, right?
yeah. Add a CB head smash just
Hmm.
straight up to it goes Tangela.
Yeah.
It's pretty scary, and I also in this meta it just feels like you need stuff which just deals damage, right? Like that's such a huge thing. Without stealth rocks and hazards and stuff, you need to have that extra ability to just go, all right, pick one.
Yeah.
The other thing is Spadef Curse Flareon, which isn't as bad as I thought it would be, but is cool. It's cool to have.
I want to try that. I like Curse Flareon from ADV NU. It's, I think, actually kind of funny. It can Curse Pass. I used Curse Pass Flareon with a White Herb Radicate to receive. Uh, so that's what that made me think of. Okay, I think we can wrap it up. It's been like an hour and it's 8 minutes. Cool and good.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in to all this nonsense. And we will see you next week with, thank God, a much shorter Slam update. Because no matter what, it's 4 games max. Oh man, alright. We'll see you guys.